A few months ago, about 20% of the world was on the brink of nuclear annihilation. For 4 days, the world held its breath, unsure of what's to come next. But instead of war, what happened was something entirely different. A victory not on the battlefield, but on the global stage. From memes to shooting down Rafales, Pakistan flexed its strength. But its greatest triumph came in diplomacy. Shocking, right? I mean, for decades, Pakistan has been cast aside as India's unstable neighbor and often seen through the lens of militancy, terrorism, coups, and economic instability. But today, our Prime Minister is seen walking shoulder to shoulder with global powerhouses, and our Field Marshal is seen dining at the White House. So, how did Pakistan do this? This is the story of how Pakistan pulled off one of its biggest diplomatic wins in decades.
5 or 6 planes got shot down.
The conflict lasted just 4 days, but they completely redefined the power dynamics.
पाकिस्तान ने भारत पर ही हमला करना शुरू कर दिया.
Here's a summary. India carries out strikes inside Pakistan. Pakistan responds with drones and missiles targeting Indian bases and taking down Indian planes, including the most prized Rafale. But then something surprising happened. President Trump suddenly tweeted saying that the US had brokered an end to the fighting. This was just days after Vice President J.D. Vance had said that the conflict is none of their business. So what changed? Apparently, the Pakistani government's call for its National Command Authority, the body that oversees nuclear weapons, was a cause of concern. Having claimed battlefield dominance, Pakistan's position was secure and US mediation was actually welcome. In fact, Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar told reporters that India had approached the US to mediate, but India downplayed the whole thing and denied any US involvement altogether. In fact, according to this report by Bloomberg, a tense 35-minute call between Trump and Modi created a rift between the two countries, after which Modi turned down an invitation to stop by the White House on his way back from Canada. The report also suggests that this episode marked a turning point between the two countries, and it's no wonder that Trump has since then been attacking India's trade policies and also announced a 50% tariff on Indian exports. After missed calls, half conversations, and deliberate delays, both sides finally talked. By May 10th, a ceasefire was announced. It wasn't just the US though. The Iranians also sent their foreign minister early on in the conflict. And China was fully backing Pakistan with its PL-15 missile, shooting down Indian Rafales in real time. This mix of military pressure and international persuasion stopped the war. But it left the world with a new question. Who actually came out on top? Here's where Pakistan stunned everyone. The Indian government went into overdrive, claiming massive wins like destroying a port in Lahore. Their media and general communication seemed a bit frazzled. Pakistan, on the other hand, remained calm. The media mostly avoided sensational coverage and even advocated for peace. Most importantly, Pakistan proposed a neutral and transparent investigation into the Pahalgam attack, signaling its openness to constructive dialogue and accountability. Barely weeks after the ceasefire, Pakistan was on the move. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, accompanied by the newly promoted Field Marshal Asim Munir, embarked on a post-conflict victory lap diplomatic tour of Turkey, Iran, Azerbaijan, and Tajikistan. In addition, a high-level delegation consisting of various party representatives traveled across key capitals, not to beg for support, but to showcase restraint and take charge of the Pakistani narrative amidst the noise of misinformation. One of the delegation's most prominent members was Khurram Dastagir Khan, Pakistan's seasoned politician and former defense minister.
India has now realized after 3 what they claim to be incursions into Pakistan, 2016, 19 and 25, that it cannot browbeat Pakistan militarily. That has been their aim. And they actually profess it, that we will bring Pakistan to its knees, we'll make sure that Pakistan accepts us as the hegemon and as the dominant power in the region. I think it's now very clear with Bunyal al-Marsus that that will not happen. The bitter lesson is that the area where we thought we could begin to cooperate was the one India sealed off first by putting Indus Water Treaty into abeyance. And it's a deadly mistake that India is making because the Indus Water Treaty is actually one of the model bilateral treaties. It is written in a very sort of sealed manner, very tightly written treaty. And if that can be broken, nothing is sacred. So that's, the respect for international law should now be a theme in our diplomacy. Now, again, this is my personal opinion. The world, which had essentially written off Pakistan as a terrorism-ridden, weak economy country, is seeing Pakistan in a new light. A Pakistan that has this hitherto hidden military strength, air force strength, has this ability to communicate to the world, and by doing so, sending a signal that it is a responsible member of international community. I think that's very important, and this should help build up what the new foreign policy ought to be, which is a pursuit of Pakistan's economic interests, and to be less zero-sum in our diplomacy. But we should also, and again this is my personal opinion, realize that yes, we have this now very intriguing new honeymoon with the United States, but our true partner has been, is, and will be China.
And this is where the conflict transformed Pakistan's international image. Now, for a long time, Pakistan was ignored by the Biden administration. This frosty relationship with the US also trickled down to other European countries, leading to a sort of alienation. International organizations were working with Pakistan, but with considerable skepticism. But the war changed everything. According to many analysts, Pakistan didn't just survive the war, it came out victorious. For the first time in decades, Islamabad had the confidence to set the terms of the story. Let's break down the wins. Win number 1. Kashmir back on the table. For half a century, India has kept the Kashmir issue locked behind the idea of bilateralism, meaning no outsiders. But the fact that the US had to mediate in May, with Secretary Rubio literally on the phone call with both sides, changed that. Kashmir was internationalized again, not through speeches, but through crisis management. That alone was a strategic win for Pakistan. President Trump since then has multiple times offered to mediate over Kashmir. Win number 2, the re-hyphenation of India and Pakistan. For years, Washington tried to de-hyphenate, as in to treat India as a major partner and Pakistan as well secondary. But this crisis forced the US to put them back on equal footing. By the way, it's also worth mentioning that in March earlier this year, Pakistan arrested a senior Islamic State Khorasan militant who was tied to the 2021 Kabul airport bombing that killed nearly 200 people, including US soldiers. Now think about that. For years, Pakistan was blamed for harboring militants. And this time, it was the country delivering a terrorist arrest. That earned Pakistan plaudits not just from the American general, but also from President Trump.
And I want to thank especially the government of Pakistan for helping arrest this monster.
Since 2024, the beginning, Pakistan had over 1,000 terrorist attacks in the western area, killing about 700 security and civilians and 2,500 wounded. They're in an active counterterrorism fight right now, and they have been a phenomenal partner in the counterterrorism world.
And all of this played well not just in Washington, but across Europe and the Gulf. Win number 3, strengthened alliances. And this is the big one. First up is China, Pakistan's iron brother, that not only called for restraint, but directly blamed India for escalation. Chinese jets and missiles were used to down Indian Rafales in real time. And Beijing doubled down on CPEC investments in energy grids and the Gwadar port. And the lasting image? Shehbaz Sharif standing shoulder to shoulder with Xi Jinping at China's military parade. For India, this is a nightmare. A tighter Beijing-Islamabad axis means that the two-front threat is more real than ever. The relationship is now deeper than trade corridors and infrastructure. China is Pakistan's primary defense supplier, filling the gap left by the West. And that's exactly why India is now trying to mend fences with the Chinese. Next up, Turkey. That not only took a firm stand with Pakistan, but actually went beyond the customary condemnations. A Turkish warship's arrival in Karachi just days before the conflict conveyed a message of solidarity. Rumors of Turkish arms shipments rattled New Delhi enough that Indians actually boycotted Turkish goods. Behind the headlines, Ankara and Islamabad were pushing defense, energy, and education ties even deeper. Then Saudi Arabia, that stepped in as a quiet mediator during the war, but then moved fast to reaffirm brotherly ties. Joint naval drills signal that this isn't just about money, it's about long-term strategic partnership. Pakistan's army called Saudi Arabia brothers forever in recognizing their role in de-escalation, praising Riyadh for past lifelines like a $2 billion central bank deposit and critical support in unlocking a $3 billion IMF loan. Now the focus is on growth. Saudi investors are eyeing a $1 billion stake in the Reko Dek copper and gold project, which is one of the world's largest. Next up, Azerbaijan, that openly backed Pakistan's Kashmir stance and is deepening defense and energy cooperation, tying Islamabad into the Caspian region. And then Afghanistan surprised everyone. Both sides not only upgraded their diplomatic missions for the first time in years, but also tied CPEC into Kabul and agreed on counterterrorism cooperation. Now, we all know that for years, Pakistan and Afghanistan have been at odds. Border clashes, refugee disputes, and accusations of cross-border militancy. But after May 2025, the tone shifted. In late May, Pakistan announced that it would elevate its diplomatic envoy in Kabul from charge d'affaires to ambassador, which is a significant upgrade after nearly 4 years of only diplomatic engagement. A few days later, the Afghan side reciprocated, which is a win for Islamabad. This change didn't happen in a vacuum. It came on the back of a trilateral meeting in Beijing between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and China. There they agreed to not only swap ambassadors, but also to expand CPEC into Afghanistan, opening the door for transit, investment, and regional integration. For India, that's a strategic loss because Afghanistan is no longer an easy counterweight to Pakistan. And finally, Bangladesh. This was a real shocker. In September, Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar flew to Dhaka, which was the first visit in over a decade. They opened doors to student exchanges, visa-free diplomacy, and even floated shipping and defense cooperation. Bangladesh's military delegation visited Islamabad with JF-17 fighter jets on the table. Now sure, the wounds of 1971 haven't healed, but geopolitically, the timing was perfect. With Sheikh Hasina gone, Dhaka was less tied to Delhi, and Islamabad seized the moment right away. For Pakistan, this was more than just repairing bilateral ties. Bangladesh is South Asia's second largest and fastest growing economy after India. But here's the kicker. For India, this shift is deeply uncomfortable. India has heavy investments in Dhaka like energy, connectivity, and defense cooperation. So if Pakistan manages to normalize ties even partially, it complicates India's dominance in its own backyard. Here's a symbol of how far Pakistan's diplomatic posture has come since May 2025. In July, Pakistan held the rotating presidency of the UN Security Council. And that's a real spotlight moment because Pakistan had a month to lead high-stakes global diplomacy, whereas Ishaq Dar not only raised his voice for Kashmir, but also for Gaza. And let's not forget the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Historically, Pakistan leaned on the OIC to raise Kashmir rhetorically, often with little follow-through. But after the conflict, Islamabad's role looked different. Pakistani diplomats leveraged the crisis to push through resolutions and, more importantly, to rally Gulf states that had been hedging closer to India. Speaking of diplomacy, another thing worth noting is how Pakistan also placed itself as an active voice during the Iran-Israel conflict that followed just days after its own fight with India. The Pakistani government condemned the attacks, calling them deeply disturbing and a breach of international norms. Not only did Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif speak with the Iranian president to affirm Pakistan's support, but Iran's military chief also thanked Field Marshal Asim Munir for Pakistan's courageous stance and support. Now, this is quite a move from Pakistan given its strained ties with Iran over border security and Iran's closeness with India. And just last year, Iran admitted to carrying out deadly strikes on Pakistan's territory. But Pakistan handled this diplomatic challenge very carefully. It simultaneously maintained ties with Iran as well as the US. It is now in a strategically important position to bridge divides and serve as a credible mediator. Now, put all of this together and you see exactly why analysts say that Pakistan walked out of this 4-day war not broken, but stronger. And here's the irony. This wasn't a long war. It didn't redraw borders and it didn't even topple governments. But Pakistan proved that it could stand toe-to-toe militarily, manage its narrative diplomatically, and even win over allies that had been distant for decades. And sure, India and Pakistan aren't done. The next crisis will come, but when it does, Pakistan will enter it from a very different place than before.